Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I have received another strike from Earl. I posted the entire video that he posted. I got a copy of the one that Earl actually posted or sent out. It has his little graphic font on it and everything like that. And I posted a copy of that one, and he has struck it, and I have done a counter notification. So we'll see if he sacks up to give me a federal lawsuit on that. Anyway, that's not really what I wanted to talk to you about. It's always interesting to me, the dichotomy between the two camps, the pro-auditor and the anti-auditor camp, and how neither can seem to understand the other side. And as a person who has a foot firmly planted in both camps, I try to help people bridge that. And one of the things that I see, one of the arguments that are made against auditors, I should say, is actually a multi-tiered argument. And it generally revolves in circles around, these basic ideas. So once you refute one, it goes to another, and then it's like a circle that just repeats itself and just keeps endlessly resetting. The first sort of argument that people make is that auditors are generally pretty tasteless people. They offend society. They lack tact. They're rude. They're obnoxious. They're annoying. And they just irritate people into reacting. And while that is true, that does not make them ineligible to be auditors. That does not make them bad at achieving results. You have to understand that sometimes terrible people make great advances in First Amendment case law. For example, there's Brandenburg v. Ohio, wherein a Nazi Klansman held a rally violating some sort of a law against incitement. And it turns out that the Supreme Court says, no, that was protected speech. It wasn't direct incitement. Anyway, I'm not going to get into Brandenburg, but the call to violence was removed far enough away from any actual threat of violence that it was protected speech. You can actually, under the First Amendment, you can actually call for violence and have that be protected speech. So, even for people you don't like, even for terrible people. So just keep that in mind. Another thing they like to bring up is that auditors have criminal records, and most of them do. A lot of them do. Here's the thing, though. First of all, having a criminal record doesn't strip you of any of your First Amendment rights. So it's really not pertinent to anything other than reinforcing the first position that they're bad people, which, again, as I've shown you, is a meaningless argument to make. But it would make sense that people who are testing these laws, who are pushing against these laws, who have the balls to do things that society says they can't do, it would make sense that they would be the ones with the criminal records. A lot of them can't get, if you have a felony, it's hard to get a job, man. And, I empathize with some of these people. What do you do to make money? And if you can go out and just kind of be yourself and make money doing it, then what's the problem? But they are pushing against laws. Like, for example, the post office. Is it illegal to film in a post office? Yes, it is. It is expressly forbidden by the regulation. There is, I believe, a minor fine associated with it. I mean, it's not going to ruin anybody's day. I think it's like a $50 fine or something incredibly small. So is it illegal? Yes. But the question that the auditor is asking, because the auditor believes the First Amendment protects that activity, The question the auditor is asking is not whether or not it's illegal, but whether or not that law is constitutional, whether it's constitutional for the post office to forbid him or her to film in there. And so the criminal record is really irrelevant. I mean, if you look back at civil rights activists, most, if not all of them, either started off with criminal records or had accrued pretty major criminal records by the time they were done with the civil rights movement, because they were getting arrested all the time. I mean, that's the name of the game. You're pushing against laws you think are unconstitutional. You're going to get arrested, and the people who have fewer inhibitions against pushing against laws are going to be, generally speaking, more likely to be criminals, and they're going to be more likely to be activists. I mean, that's just duh. The next thing that people say is, oh, well, they make money, tying into, it's hard to make money if you're a felon. But some of these people say, it's hard, they're out there, they're just doing this for money, as if it's a binary, as if you can't have an interest in something and to make money off it. Like, I'm sure Picasso sold his paintings, but did he paint just for the money? Did Leonardo da Vinci paint just for the money? It is a very simplistic, childish way of looking at the world to think that somebody does something only for one reason. Like, am I a lawyer just for the money? No, I'm a lawyer primarily because of the money, but also because I like practicing law. I like law. So if someone said that, John is a lawyer just for the money, well, no. But if I wasn't getting paid to do it, I wouldn't do it. Or at least I would do a significant amount less of it, because obviously I'd have to get a different job. But there's also costs associated with auditing. There's gas, there's attorney's fees. I mean, if you're getting arrested, there's attorney's fees. Earl was right when he said there's a lot of costs associated with being arrested for being an auditor. He's not lying. $8,000 or so isn't an outrageous retainer for a criminal defense attorney. It's not an outrageous retainer. And if it actually goes all the way to and through trial, expect to pay another $8,000 to $10,000. That's just the name of the game. I mean, it's not cheap to get an attorney. Tack on lost working time if these auditors are lucky enough to have jobs. I mean, it's probably hard to keep them. It's probably hard to keep a job if you're out auditing all the time and getting thrown in jail all the time and having the police come by your work to interview you all the time, etc. I mean, most employers aren't going to put up with that. So again, hard to keep a job, and they got to eat. I mean, show me a single charity out there where the management of the charity doesn't get paid. There's going to be a CEO or a CFO or some sort of financial controller or somebody. There's people are getting paid. That's why, like, a good charity will have like 80 cents on the dollar going to the actual charitable cause, because 20 cents on the dollar is going to other things, and some of those other things are probably going to be payrolls. It's just, I mean, auditors got to eat. So it's a pretty ludicrous argument. And then the last argument that I think is just hilarious is they're not real. They're not real activists. Real activists won't have anything to do with them. And I just have to sit here, wondering what the fuck is a real activist? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. I didn't bother to ask what the commenter thought a real activist was, but I think maybe he's thinking of a lobbyist or something like that. And of course, lobbyists don't get shit done for the First Amendment. Never have, never will. It's not a thing that is pushed forward by lobbyists. I mean, it's pushed forward by people who are discontent with the system. Johnson v. Texas, or Texas v. Johnson. I always get that mixed up. The guy burned a flag against the law in Texas to burn a flag. He did it because he was protesting. Most of the civil rights cases, a lot of the protest cases came out of the civil rights era, the 1960s and 1970s, where people were marching and chanting and having sit-ins and things like that. And a lot of the groundbreaking cases came out of that era where people were just normal people, just fed up with, you know, the Jim Crow laws and what have you, and they were out there just to make a change. You know, Mitsumishi, the guy whose name I always butcher against the DHS, he was out there. He wasn't an activist. He was trying to get a news story. Fordyce was out there just to film a riot. Glick and what's her name? They were just filming police. They're just normal people. So what is this real activist? What is this real mythical creature? Like, I don't understand it. If you're going to suggest that the ACLU or some other group like that is a real activist, I mean, they're not. They're attorneys. They're, you know, they just specialize in. They used to specialize in protecting free speech, but now, and civil rights in general, now they're actually fine with censoring the opinions that they disagree with. Strangely enough, there was a time when the ACLU, I think the ACLU might have represented Brandenburg, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they've represented KKK members, you know, for free speech, for like cross burning things. They didn't have any qualms with free speech back in the day, back when they were pure of heart and character and vision. Anyway, that's it. That's really all I have today. It's just the arguments are silly. First Amendment auditors do what they do. And while not all of them are going to be successful, not all civil rights activists were successful, not all civil rights activists got the big cases named after them, etc. But that doesn't make them lesser people for it. You know, it's you don't always get the hero you want, but sometimes you get the hero you need. And by the way, auditors, I'm not saying you're all heroes. Some of you are terrible, shitty people. But I mean, good may come from your actions regardless or in spite of your character defects. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.